Hello, welcome to another episode of the Fitfluencer Series. I'm here with Ollie Marchon at Marchon Athletic, and today we're going to be talking all about Ollie, where he's been, what he's doing now, his beliefs, thoughts and pet hates with the industry, and we're going to try and give you guys as much content that you can use as possible. So, Ollie, thank you very much for coming on the show, mate. Really appreciate you giving up some time to be here. First off, why don't you just introduce yourself really quickly to the people at home, give bit of a brief description. Go for it.
So, hi guys, I'm Ollie Marchon. Thanks for coming down and joining us, Dave. I am a strength coach, personal trainer, however you want to dress it up. I coach people trying to live a healthier, happier, fitter, stronger lifestyle. I'm one of the coaches here at Marchon Athletic. I'm also soon to become a family man. I have a fiance and a baby on the way in February. I'm an ex-rugby player, sportsman, now business owner and trainer.
Good, man. Really good description there.
Demonstration.
Demonstration. So Ollie was actually really modest in his little introduction there. Ex England Rugby Sevens player, which is a massive accolade. So why don't you kind of tell the people at home how you kind of came to be in that position?
So yeah, rugby is my main passion and sports in general really. So I played sport from a very young age, football, basketball, rugby. Soon found out that rugby was where I was going to get furthest with it, so I kind of went with that. The barriers to entry for rugby were a lot lower than football because everyone plays football, and
trying to say that rugby's easy.
It's slightly easier. And basketball you have to be particularly tall, and I'm not particularly tall, so I went with rugby. Lucky enough to get picked up by Saracens Rugby Club at sort of 14, 15. Stayed with them through the academy system to a point where I finished school. It was then always my passion to play, give full-time sport a good crack, and then if it didn't work out, then I'd go back into education. If it worked out, I'd try and combine education with rugby. So signed a contract when I left school. It was brilliant, sort of full-time rugby in amongst top professionals, British Lions players, some of the All Blacks players at that time. Sorry about that, but I was just a young whippersnapper who was influenced by these guys and just wanted to get the most out of it. I probably took it a little bit for granted at the time though. So 8 months into my contract, I had a bad injury playing for their second team in the A-League. I snapped my cruciate ligament, my lateral collateral ligament, and did a load of damage in my knee. I had 3 months left of my contract, and I was in great hands, so I had surgery the next week, and my rehab was basically taken care of by the top physios there, and also like Richard Hill, who was a famous Lions player, England player, back row, who had serious damage to his knee a number of times, and he kind of did a lot of my rehab with me. That's cool. So I was in really good hands for that 3 months. But then when you finish that and your contract's up and you're told that you're not going to play for another maybe 12 months, I applied to university, got a position at Nottingham Trent, the Trent Army. to do sports science, because it was really the only thing I was interested in, right, was sports science. But other than rugby, I didn't know what else it was what it would lead on to.
Yeah.
And then I kind of made a cardinal sin and went travelling post that 3 months of rehab and basically reversed or didn't really progress my rehab any further. So that kind of delayed my recovery back to rugby a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then, of course, off the back of travelling, went to university, and then I'm a fresher. And I kind of resented sport and rugby because the rugby culture at university is very different to the professional rugby culture.
Yeah, massively.
As you probably experienced. So being someone who come from that professional environment, sort of quite strict, rigid wake-up times, the training element, that community, that kind of stuff, to suddenly being in an environment where you're at university as a young 19-year-old, you suddenly have all that independence, but you don't have to necessarily go to lectures, you can lie in, you're not part of the rugby team, and you see them doing their stuff, and they're quite a bit of a clique, so you kind of feel ostracised by that. They sort of had a bit of animosity towards me because they'd heard what I'd done before with the rugby, but I wasn't...
Big time, Ollie's come down, he thinks he's better than us, that kind of stuff.
That kind of stuff. And probably I portrayed that a little bit, because I resented rugby, so I probably didn't involve myself in their culture as much as I should have. But then sort of second year came and I was able to play again, and I gave it another crack. So combined rugby with university, I went on to captain my first team there, so my passion kind of came back. Nice. And we were quite successful. We weren't a huge rugby university, but we got into the sort of the top league. We won one of the national cups, the second tier cup. So my rugby career kind of reignited, and I managed to come out of university because I was able to combine my passion then with studies, and I was enjoying myself with a good first class degree.
Nice, mate. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, mate. So then I kind of came out of university thinking, well, I can give rugby another crack here. I've got my degree. I've got something to fall back on. I've got some life experience and that kind of thing. So I set up as a freelance personal trainer at my local gym. I was advised against it, and alongside doing that, I took on a year's internship in strength conditioning back up in Nottingham. So it's kind of like it was kind of like the equivalent of a master's, but less theory, more practical based.
Yeah.
So we looked after various different sports teams, from anything from netball to football to rugby, and we did their programming for them, took them through the sessions. So I gained some real hands-on coaching experience in that sense. So I felt confident enough in my knowledge and my coaching ability. And because I come from a rugby background where you kind of naturally build some confidence, otherwise you get kind of trampled in those circles. To go to my local leisure centre and set up as a freelance trainer, as a PT. Just started off paying my rent, cold calling people, offering them free sessions, put myself on the gym floor as much as I could. I was obviously very serious about my training. I trained in a certain way, I looked a certain way, and I guess back then, sort of 9-10 years ago, that stood for a lot of things. People would naturally navigate to the person that looked as though they knew what they're doing, just looked a certain way, trained a certain way, and I had a natural air of confidence about me.
Would you say that you were arrogant? Because a lot of people take confidence, attractive, good body, and kind of walks around with their chest out, not because they're showing off, but because they're being confident. People would take that a lot of the time as arrogance. Yeah. But how did you feel that you were portraying yourself?
I think you're probably always going to deny that you were maybe arrogant when you were younger. But a lot of people used to call me arrogant, so I obviously gave off that aura. But I would always see myself as someone who's incredibly approachable if you approach me. But then probably I was difficult to approach because of maybe the way I looked or the aura I was giving off. Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily call myself arrogant. I don't think I'm arrogant. I think I'm fairly humble, fairly approachable, and I always give everyone the time of day. But then I probably have that side to me where I don't really mind confrontation, and if someone did get on the wrong side of me, or I don't mind challenging people's beliefs, challenging the way people act. Yeah. Whereas a lot of people would be quite submissive in those sort of situations. I'm not, so that might then again depict me as being someone who's a little bit more arrogant.
That's interesting. That's exactly how I've been described in the past as well.
Yeah.
Like the similar thing. Everything you've just said. Like I did my knee, and I started out by myself, and relatively good shape, you kind of have that same confidence about you. People call me arrogant when I was young, and I always just think I'm not arrogant, I just know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Whereas people are like, well, that's an arrogant statement. It's like, well, I don't know, that's just, I'm certain of how I believe and what I think is right. Yeah. And I'll challenge people if they don't have that same belief and maybe to get that understanding. So it's really interesting you have that same kind of thought process. Maybe people thought similar things about you. But now, I would say, because, we've only met recently, that you do not come across as arrogant in any way. You do come across as humble, and maybe that is a maturity thing. Like you still have the same knowledge, ability, still in good shape, still a good-looking guy. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to be unapproachable and intimidating.
Yeah, I think it's something that definitely grows as you get a little bit more mature, but also there's different life experiences and being a PT. So sometimes in the early days, you've got 8 clients or 9 clients, it's almost going on like 8 different dates. You have to have a personality, you have to be able to play a certain way, maybe talk scientific language with one person, bring things into layman terms with others. At Jack the Lab, they like to talk about rugby. Maybe some guys talk about rugby and drinks at the weekend and girls, but then the elder female wants a bit more of a sensitive side. Yeah. So you kind of get that ability to manipulate your personality. Still stick with who you are. You know who you are. You're not being fake. Yeah. But you learn to be more approachable to different people, and you learn that certain ways in which you might hold your face, or the way you walk, may actually bring another client in. You know, just from not being maybe so standoffish, or look at your body language become a little more approachable. Yeah. I think that comes from the industry, and the more exposure you get to people. Yeah, definitely. And it's good that you kind of highlight that you almost have to not be a different person, but you've got to be what your client is looking for as well. You've got the knowledge. Yeah. Like, having the knowledge isn't enough. You have to be approachable. You have to be have kind of connections with different people so that you can impart that knowledge upon them. It's interesting as well that you've kind of talked about, you've done a degree, you've got high quality rugby, strength and conditioning background, and you spent a year in industry basically whilst kind of doing a master's, and then you went into being a PT. Whereas the vast majority of people do a 6-week personal training course and then they're a PT. Yeah. So it's quite a low barrier to entry, wouldn't you say, into the industry? Completely. So what do you kind of feel maybe is like a good way that, how do people kind of differentiate between that newbie and someone that's maybe got a bit more knowledge and understanding? I think it's difficult because there is that low barrier to entry. I think within the professional sports background, so the people that might require, they don't even require, the athletes don't require the best sort of training. In fact, I think probably the general population need better coaching, but they don't have access to it because the best coaches might navigate towards professional sport and that kind of thing. But then in professional sport, it's a lot of unpaid internships. You come out of university in huge debt with degrees and further education, and then you're thrust into an industry where you're working 6 days a week, sometimes 9 till 5, unpaid, doing a bar job in the evening just to be around professional sport and learn your trade. So that might put a few people off going down that route. The other route is, do a 6-week course and then suddenly you're worth 50, 60, maybe in London a little bit more pounds per hour. So that you didn't quite necessarily get the education, but you've got the qualification, and then you can charge that money. And then you sometimes become a slave to maybe gaining a bit more money and maybe not further education for a couple of years until you realise, okay, I'm fed up of chasing that money because it's not really meaning anything. I want a better experience. I might go and do a bit more self-development. It's not really a gripe at the coaches per se. It's more at the fact that there is a low barrier to entry. People don't really necessarily need to keep up their qualifications or accreditations. I know reps ask you to do more CPDs and that kind of stuff, but how really is that regulated? Where are people kind of looking at that? You've got these trainers in independent gyms or training people outside of a leisure chain where they need those qualifications. Some don't even have maybe a qualification. They might have some public liability insurance and they just coach people. Yeah. So I think that's maybe where the industry falls down a little bit. Not necessarily the coach's fault, as I say. But there are some really great coaches in there who go and apply their trade and do internships and get more experience on the gym floor. And they'll stand the test of time. They'll get to sort of 30, 35 and they'll stay in the industry, and they might be the gym owners or be people who have a team around them. The people that kind of look for that quick barrier, that quick route to the top, they're usually the ones handing their CV into their clients and becoming, going into sales jobs and that kind of stuff, because they don't really have a passion about becoming a better coach. They're just chasing the quick buck. I think also it can be quite difficult as well for certain people, because in a lot of the well-known gyms, shall we say like big chain gyms, they will happily take people on that have no experience but just have that qualification, put them on the gym floor and go, okay, it's your business, go and get your business and grow your business, when actually in fact it isn't your business at all. You're just a self-employed person working for a massive chain. And so that can be one of the things which why people don't necessarily get the further qualifications, because they have to keep up the 40 hours a week on the gym floor. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to pay the £1,000, the £1,400 rent to the big gym that really doesn't care about them. They just want them to kind of use them to kind of generate money. I think that's twofold. I think it's the big chain gyms just employing PTs to get that revenue from the PTs, and it's also their lack of care and attention to their paying members as well. They don't mind their members being PT'd by let's say a lower quality of personal trainer. They don't mind the gym being dirty. They don't mind equipment being broken for a number of weeks. They're just about making money for themselves. Essentially, as a PT, you're renting a space, and as a client, you're just renting a space to train. That's what your gym membership is. Yeah. That's why I think independent gyms, CrossFit boxes, training centres are becoming more prevalent. They're popping up all over the place, whereas the big chain gyms are really struggling to manage or to open any more of them, and they're losing memberships. And they're now putting on, Easy Gym, Pure Gym, all these things are putting on, buy a gym membership for £5 and bring 5 of your mates along, and you suddenly you've got a membership, because it's just about volume for them. They're relying on a little bit of money each month and no one turning up.
Yeah.
Whereas as trainers, we want people to turn up more and more and trying to find a way for people to train more and more, so they get better results.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one thing maybe you can use to differentiate between a good quality coach and a not so good coach is really like their passion behind what they do. I was going to say is like one thing. Do you have like maybe one tip for people watching that they could maybe use to identify between a good and a bad coach? Just kind of something which can help. Because I know it's something that's quite difficult for a lot of people, and a lot of people spend time with bad coaches that don't really help them.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you kind of feel? Is there a way for people to identify the difference?
Sounds a bit sort of contradictory here, but I think people that speak with a position of authority and have that confidence, so social media for it, people that put themselves on camera and have confidence in what they're saying, you should stand up and kind of listen to them, and they're the sort of people I'd naturally listen to more myself. So even if I think further down the line they might be talking a load of rubbish, I'll spend the time trying to actually listen to their story and their justifications and why they do things, right? If they can justify certain things. So that kind of gets my attention. Yeah. People that put their face on social media. Hence why I kind of navigated towards connecting with you, right? I saw you continually pop up with Dave's 10-second tips and that kind of stuff, right? So
just being annoying.
It's stuff that makes people listen. It's better than the person that keeps quiet. Because then you can use your understanding of the fitness industry and stuff. I guess I'm looking at it from a different point compared to a different view compared to the client. But you listen to that person, you might do a little bit of research into that. Look at their qualifications in terms of have they actually done the time studying. Look at testimonials. So if you're looking for weight loss, has that person taken someone on a weight loss journey? Because that would show whether they know what they're talking about. See if they've got many testimonials. Yeah. See what where they train people. Is that right? Is that the right environment for you? Does the service fit in with maybe how you like to train, the times in which you train, and that kind of thing. So just spend some time researching, following that person, going down to the gym that they work out of, maybe speak to a few of their clients.
Yeah.
Maybe see if they do some sort of trial or invest in them for a month, because that's a short-term investment. Hopefully it's not too much of a financial burden, and see what they can do for you in a month. Sit down with them and ask them just to speak it through with you. That's the best way to do things. You might never find that the best coach for you the first time round, but you need to sort of maybe try a couple or sound someone out for a little bit and see if they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's pretty close to exactly how I feel about it. I mean, if you're looking to achieve something with a coach, then you want to see if they've done that with somebody else in the past. It's effectively like you need to check their CV of history with their clients. Are they good at weight loss, if that's what you're looking for? Have you got emotional eating problems and you need to try and find someone that can resonate with that with you? Are you looking to get massive and stage ready? Like, we're not physique coaches. We come from a performance background, but obviously you can get in good shape from that perspective. But if you're looking to step on stage, then you need to find someone that's either been on stage or has coached people that get on stage. And you try and find the right type of PT for what you're looking to achieve, and if they've been able to do that multiple times in the past with other clients. So kind of talking about like big chains, little chains, and independent gyms, like how do you feel that you guys managed to fill that space with the people that you bring down here to Marchon Athletic?
So it all started, as I say, in a leisure gym 10 years ago, and I kind of navigated out of there where I wanted my own space. I wanted to be able to add strength and conditioning principles into my coaching of people. And in a leisure gym, you can't really program and that kind of stuff because the equipment might not be available to you, and it gets busy at peak times. So I was lucky enough to find a really modest cattle shed on a farm, which we converted into a small gym. It was a minimal. At the time, it was quite expensive for me, but it was quite a minimal startup fee. And I basically took my client base into there, and I started being able to program certain sessions and that kind of thing. And then I noticed that people were getting stronger and getting the results quicker. And then it was very much a one-on-one personal training environment. And then it became more about giving people more access to be able to train more. So then you've got to look into just being a little bit more affordable and opening up your times. So then I wanted to have a gym where we had a few different coaches, all coaching the same sort of quality of product. And then we started offering sort of small group PT and that kind of thing. So that's kind of where sort of Marchon Athletic kind of grew from, is creating more of a community so people could kind of stop in here every couple of days and train and just maximise their training time. So I think that's what people need, just more access based on just kind of time and affordability. Because me and you might train 4, 5, 6 times a week. And we're on social media with our tops off, that kind of stuff, and we're portraying that sort of image. Potentially, sometimes on a Friday.
I mean, every
Friday
now
night
and
pump.
then. I try not to.
That was all my social media was like 5 years ago. So if we're sort of telling people this is us in shape, and we train 5-6 times a week, we need to try and find a way to just, even if it's just program for them so they can do that independently. It's and maybe give them that one session in here where they understand getting pushed a little bit further. So that was kind of what we wanted to achieve. Just give people the tools they need to sort of follow their dreams based on what social media society now says is good shape.
Okay, cool. And where do you kind of see it going? Like, what's the dream?
The dream is to take what we've created here, and replicate it on a bigger scale. Have a bigger gym, have a bigger team, facilitate, to train more people, give people more access. I dabble with the idea of having multiple gyms, but you can't be in one place at one time. I like being around the team that we've created. I like just standing inside these four walls every day. If I could do this rather than sit behind the laptop all day long, I would, which is potentially sometimes why I don't get back to emails and that kind of stuff, because I just love being here, love being in the gym. Yeah. So the dream is just keep scaling this, keep enjoying it, keep turning up to work and doing the long hours and enjoying it. I don't mind, I don't mind being here. What's not to like about waking up and putting on a tracksuit and being surrounded by weights and people, people working hard. It's good fun. Doing
what you love and helping people to achieve like the goals that they set for themselves, it's all like really positive stuff. And I think that one of the most rewarding things definitely about our job is that you see people progress and you see the happiness and the achievement that they get within themselves, and almost that confidence boost sometimes. And I feel like that's one of the best things that you get out of this job as well.
Completely agree.
Brilliant, mate. Right, so one last thing, just before we kind of wrap things up. I need a really bad joke.
Oh. On the spot.
A
bad
really
joke.
Bad joke.
Can we swivel the camera and show them Charlie's face?
What, the moustache, mate?
What do you call a bear with no teeth?
I don't know.
A gummy bear.
That's a really bad joke.
That's literally all I've got.
That's the worst. That's all right. I asked for a bad one, not a good one.
Any good or not? From the floor? How was that? That was all right? You enjoyed it? Tickled you? Good. Job done.
Awesome. Ollie, thank you so much for coming on the show, mate. Brilliant to have you.
It's my pleasure.
And to all of you guys watching, thank you so much for your attention. I'm going to be coming to you very, very soon with another episode, so keep your eyes peeled. See you soon.
Adios.